Bolivia is in trouble. The South American nation is grappling with a crippling fuel crisis. Long lines at gas stations are a common sight. People are struggling to get the fuel they need for their daily lives. And at the heart of this crisis is a corruption scandal that reaches the highest levels of government. This is the story of how Bolivia's fuel woes are fueling a different kind of fire, a fire of public outrage. Citizens are demanding answers. They want to know how their country, once a beacon of hope in the region, has fallen into such disarray. This isn't just about empty tanks. It's about broken trust. It's about the erosion of faith in a government that promised prosperity but delivered hardship. And it's about the ordinary Bolivians caught in the middle, their lives upended by a crisis they didn't create. For years, Bolivia has kept fuel prices artificially low through government subsidies. This might sound good on paper, but it's a recipe for disaster. These subsidies have placed an immense strain on the country's finances, draining precious resources that could be used for education, healthcare, or infrastructure. But the problems don't stop there. These artificially low prices have also made Bolivia a prime target for smugglers. They buy up cheap fuel in Bolivia and sell it at a markup in neighboring countries, further exacerbating the shortages within Bolivia. The government's insistence on maintaining these unsustainable subsidies has only made a bad situation worse. It's a classic case of short-term gain for long-term pain, and it's the Bolivian people who are paying the price. While Bolivians struggle to fill their tanks at home, the country finds itself increasingly reliant on fuel imports. It's a bitter irony, a nation rich in natural gas, reduced to begging for gasoline from its neighbors. But that's not the only energy paradox plaguing Bolivia. As fuel imports skyrocket, the country's own gas exports have been dwindling. This decline in exports means less revenue for the government, further deepening the economic hole Bolivia finds itself in. The situation is unsustainable. Bolivia needs to find a way to increase domestic production and reduce its reliance on foreign fuel. But that will require bold action and a commitment to breaking free from the cycle of corruption that has plagued the energy sector for too long. At the center of this web of intrigue is a company called Boat Trading. This YPFB subsidiary, operating in Paraguay, has become synonymous with the fuel crisis and the allegations of high-level corruption swirling around it. Critics allege that boat trading has been used as a front for shady dealings. They claim that fuel was purchased at inflated prices, lining the pockets of corrupt officials and their cronies. These illicit profits, they say, were then funneled out of the country, leaving Bolivia's coffers emptier than ever. The allegations surrounding boat trading have sent shockwaves through Bolivian society. If true, they would represent a brazen betrayal of public trust, a blatant case of self-enrichment at the expense of the very people the government is supposed to serve. Section 5. The Man with the Golden Touch. Eduardo Valdivia and his lavish lifestyle. One name that keeps popping up in connection with this scandal is Eduardo Valdivia, a businessman with close ties to the ruling party. Valdivia's extravagant lifestyle has raised eyebrows and fueled suspicions. He has amassed a collection of luxury cars, properties, and other assets that would make even the wealthiest Bolivian blush. The question on everyone's mind is simple. Where is all this money coming from? Valdivia's defenders maintain that his wealth is the result of shrewd business dealings. But his critics aren't buying it. They believe his extravagant lifestyle is being financed by ill-gotten gains, the proceeds of corruption siphoned off from the heart of the fuel crisis. Section 6. A Family Affair. The President's Son and Whispers of Nepotism. The plot thickens further with the emergence of allegations implicating President Luis Arce's own family in the scandal. Whispers of nepotism and preferential treatment have dogged the Arce administration since its inception, and the fuel crisis has only amplified these concerns. While the exact nature of the allegations against Arce's son remains shrouded in secrecy, their mere existence further erodes public trust in the government. The perception of impunity, of a ruling class operating above the law, is fueling public anger and driving demands for accountability. The president has vehemently denied any wrongdoing by himself or his family. But the damage may already be done. The whiff of scandal has cast a long shadow over his presidency, and it remains to be seen whether he can weather this storm. Section 7. The opposition cries foul. Demands for accountability. Grow louder. The opposition has seized on the fuel crisis and the corruption allegations as a rallying cry. They accuse the Arce administration of incompetence, cronyism, and outright theft. Protests have erupted across the country, with citizens demanding answers and accountability. The government's response has been widely criticized as heavy-handed and dismissive. Instead of addressing the concerns of the people, they have resorted to blaming external factors and downplaying the severity of the crisis. The international community is watching closely. Foreign governments and human rights organizations have expressed concern over the deteriorating situation in Bolivia. They have called for a transparent and independent investigation into the corruption allegations and urged the government to respect the right to peaceful protest. Section 8. The stakes have never been higher. The 2025 elections loom large. With the 2025 presidential elections fast approaching, the stakes have never been higher. The fuel crisis and the accompanying corruption scandal have become a major campaign issue, with the opposition sensing an opportunity to capitalize on public discontent. For President Arce, the election represents a fight for his political survival. He is banking on his economic record and social programs to secure a second term. But the shadow of scandal looms large, threatening to derail his re-election bid. The outcome of the election will have far-reaching consequences for Bolivia. It will determine whether the country can break free from the cycle of corruption and instability that has plagued it for decades, or whether it will continue down a path of economic uncertainty and political turmoil. Section 9. A nation at a crossroads. Will justice prevail or will corruption reign? Bolivia stands at a crossroads. The fuel crisis and the corruption scandal have laid bare the deep-seated challenges facing the nation: inequality, poverty, and a culture of impunity that allows corruption to flourish. The choices Bolivians make in the coming months and years will determine their destiny. Will they demand accountability and transparency from their leaders? Will they embrace the principles of good governance and the rule of law? The path ahead will not be easy. But the future of Bolivia, its people, and its democracy hangs in the balance. The world is watching, hoping that justice will prevail and that Bolivia can emerge from this crisis stronger and more resilient than ever before.